Are we on?
Yeah, I'd say we're on.
Right, will I go first?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. All right, I'd like to apologise once again. Evan made me do it last time when he dragged me on for that shameless promotion of our next online conference, but now we got back in order. I just completed an article, and like I said 3 days ago, I'd have it finished in 2 days, which I didn't, but I do now. And the reason we spent some time on this one is because it's going to be half of, or 2/3 of, the presentation Evan and I give, and it's fairly scientific, and that's why in the online conference presentation we're going to go into the mystical aspect of these rings, which is very, very real. But the article I've just completed is a sort of an overview with new information that's just come in. I think 4 pieces of new information that gives us a real overview about alien extraterrestrial life and its involvement on this planet and with humans and all other animals. And to an extent we felt it was needed because we've made this really verging on ridiculous claim that Uluru was turned on, well, which it was, through the Schumann resonance and through us filming the huge flash that came out of it, by humans through a device that was placed inside Uluru crystals by Pleiadians, and that they and a lot of other alien life forms and beings and whatever type of existence they take on have been vitally involved in humanity. And this was a great time of great change. Well, there's about 6 leaps of faith amongst all that. And then I feel like what we wanted to do in this particular presentation, our brief, because we've got 2 different briefs there going 2 ways. One's historical and archaeological, and 2 people are doing about the path forward. But in our section, I wanted to clear up one of the 2 questions that needs to be resolved before you can embrace such a ridiculous concept. You have to believe that alien life forms have been on this planet for a long period of time and have become part of this planet and life forms for some particular time through reincarnation, through being involved indirectly and subtly in our current life, and through many other ways. Now, to do that with this new, well, it's not really new information, the stuff Evan gives me once a week in an in tray and hands me different pieces of paper that have come from the internet and computers, and I go through and pick a couple after he's already picked them for me. There's a pattern that's come out, and what we're going to do is first of all look at 4 skulls, ones we've spoken about before, but in context now, ladies and gentlemen, because can I just remind you, in case you aren't sure what I'm talking about, is this is one of the beings involved, and as you can see, I've got the face flat, and quite simply, it just doesn't have a forehead. Okay, now there are, we thought, no other beings on this planet like this. And secondly, we also, when you hold this one up, the reconstructed form, you'll find it has these massive, massive eyes and a nose shape completely different to ours, and facial features with a wide face completely different to ours, but huge eyes, and everything about it is completely different. And we had assumed that the 4 that we found in Australia were the sum total of that. Well, no, they weren't. Evan, who found that article? Was it you or Dell?
Which article is this one?
The one about the 14 skulls and skeletons found in Bradfordsville.
I think it might have been Mum, actually.
Right. Well, we think it was, but the one person that never... It's not me. I never find any of this stuff. Don't think that I make any research. I wait to be spoon-fed. Anyway, you didn't have to wait to that. People might hear those comments. Trying to maintain some sense of doing something in this. I'm not just a pretty face, Evan. Oh God. Right. Okay, don't be deviate. Look, now what I'm getting at is what we found there was in 1930, well, what other people found and gave to me, was in 1930 this respected, well-noted farmer with others was working and they dug into one of mounds. We just know it's mounds because it's plural. And they dug into 15 feet of one mound and found 14 complete skeletons buried there. And that means if there's mounds and they've just done 15 feet of one, sounds like there's a lot of these things. But here's the trick. The comment and the reason it was in the paper was because this thing had two things that resonated. Number one, they described as having no forehead. Well, that's what we've called this thing, no forehead and flathead. No forehead, they're the only two terms we've ever given it. And then secondly, they spoke about huge, massive teeth. Well, I've held and Evan, we've seen one of the teeth there and it's massive. And the weird part about this tooth, and we have pictures of it, so I'm not making it up, is that the root canal curves outwards, not inwards, but outwards, which means pulling it out is nearly a miserable thought. And I kept thinking, isn't that a massive tooth? And isn't it amazing how all of these four things have no forehead? And they were spread over 2,000 kilometres, found in riverine, coastal and desert regions, in 4 different tribal estates. And maybe, just maybe, they were an Australian mutation, mutating to have a brain that's 400 cc bigger, but maybe, just maybe that's what it was. But it can't be now, because this story in America, which we've included in this larger sort of summation and also new information on a new ring that we've never had up before, so there is more to it. You're just not reading old stuff, but in a different way. What it seems is that so amazing was this that 3 doctors, and their names are given, led by Dr. Wilson, went and examined these 14 skulls and were shocked. And they wrote a paper, weren't paid for it, just wrote a paper, and it was sent to the top noted archaeologist whose names escaped me, but don't worry, we'll put the article in the article from the newspaper in what we've put up so you can see his name anyway, and it was given to him. And Evans chased this up further and contacted the person who put this article up that we've got a copy of, and the papers were actually sent to him and it just finished. Now, that's unusual because here we are with no forehead skulls and I can't take them outside the door and I can't get them analysed, but I am allowed to keep them at the moment and it's just finished. Nothing's allowed to happen. Nothing's changed. So, that became part of giving a more global perspective to this species. Now, I've got to make the point, I just want to hold this up in case you've forgotten or maybe haven't seen, because look at how the back of this skull it relates. Look how it flares out at the back. Around the back it's a bit more pronounced, you can see it. Now, most skulls are widest in the middle, then they taper backwards. It makes for a much easier natural birth. The one thing this thing doesn't do is make for an easy natural birth. It makes for a very painful, excruciating natural birth. And so many things about this being we felt don't belong here. Particularly when you look at the fact the humerus bone is at least 15 centimetres longer than ours, and the femur bone was exactly the same height as mine. So there's something about the configuration of this being. The neck's got to be further back. The arms are much thinner, far thinner than mine, but much longer. Everything about it is different. And we just assumed that perhaps it was one stranded alien group that just managed to make do in 4 different areas. That's not managing just to make do. But now they're found elsewhere. So that's one thing we found. The second thing we found is, strangely enough, we can't prove this part of the story. We can with the first part, but we can't prove this part of our research. The strong chance that the reason that the first aliens came to this planet was to assist the planet and the species that called them because they felt threatened. and that species are called the trees. Now that might sound bizarre, but we have got some evidence that's just come in again that validates something we had been told anyway and gave us the courage to put the whole piece up. Now, it's one thing to prove that they were here. It's another thing to prove that they were here for a long period of time and invested time, energy, presence, and lifetimes with us. For this thing that they're supposed to have created in Uluru, that means they've had an investment that goes on a long time. So the second part of the archaeology we did was to look at objects we have, 5, of which 4 have been analysed by the best science in this country. And just to make it clear for those who are trying to find flaws in what we've done, and in the technique and the science and the devices used, one of these articles was measured at Southern Cross University. Graham Lancaster was personally involved in this investigation at the laboratory there that carries, I think, 30 odd scientists there working full time. And they use the best tools in this country, and Graham is considered an expert in his field of analysis of different materials. And the other 3 were analysed by an electronic means, which is non-invasive and doesn't mean it gets cut and analysed chemically, which the first one did. The other 3 are not harmed in any way, but are analysed by a machine of which there's only 2 in this country. High tech again, and tells you everything that matches on the periodic table to what's there. And it gives you a complete readout of 100%. Or so it should. Now here's the trick. The first one, we've mentioned 5, and I'm going to mention 2 now. I'm not going to talk about all of them. The first one was done by the laboratory, and it was done at the request of Graham Lancaster, who saw this piece of metal I had and begged me more than once to actually analyse it. And I had to get permission of Auntie Minnie Mace, who gave it to me, because it came from Carry-On, and she gave it to me for protection, which has been needed. Thank you, Auntie Minnie Mace. Anyway, we both gave permission for him to cut into it. Now, I was told by Graham, he was there when the analysis took place, and what they used to begin with, because it was 73% aluminium, they didn't know the numbers then, but they thought it was aluminium. They used a drill tip on it, didn't move it. Had to get something much harder, far harder than anything you used on aluminium to get a bit cut off. And we still got the cut to this day to prove to people it happened. And the readout was 73% aluminium, 3% copper, and 24% unidentified. Graham and the crew couldn't find it. I remember once he came back to me and said, maybe it's oxidisation, we're still working on it, but no, it can't be. In the end, they gave up on it. All they could put down were the words unidentified. And that 24% was why they had to use something much harder, because it is a hardener. And this piece of, it's jewellery, because it did have a complete metal clasp that broke off when Auntie Minnie Mace's, I think, niece or something wore it at a party and it broke away. It had a complete round clasp, perfectly circular. The chain slot through it, and the back side of it is perfectly flat, and the other side is round. Now that has nearly 1/4 of it, doesn't rate on the periodic table, is not found in the Earth or on this planet, but makes up 1/4 of an object that made it stronger than it would have been under any other conditions, and we don't know what else. Now that one tells me, hang on for a sec, that is actually not a metal from here, it's from somewhere else. They've brought it. And if they've brought it with them, that's more than exploration. There's an involvement taking place here. And then, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to the second one that we've had analysed. And that's the one that comes from Angkor Wat. And that is the ring that's been broken by Roz's, the person who buys all this stuff for us. Her husband David actually knocked it and broke it and felt bad about it. As did my wife when she broke it too. She felt bad about it. As did Evan.
I broke it well.
Yes, broke it well. And he broke it second, let's be honest. But we couldn't put him in second because it had to be done alphabetically. So the ring is now called the ring that was broken by David, Dell and Evan. Actually, Evan was really second in the breakage line, but third alphabetically. And that wouldn't have been a good heading for it. 3 people have broke it because it is the most fragile ring we've ever seen. It's so brittle on the outside, but what we didn't know until it was broken a couple of times is there's a cord inside the outer comb covering of this which is not attached, separate. And it's made up of 40% iron and 41.8%. We don't know. The machine didn't recognise it. The whole analysis of this particular piece was 58.2%, 41.8% was not recognised at all. And it was obviously inside that silver sort of cord, and on the outside, the whole coat, outside and inside, was a sort of a green colour. And it was made up of 5 IUMs, 6 rather, gallium, rhodinium, rhodium, cadmium and gallium. 6.89% gallium. Now gallium can't be dug out of the ground. It is a byproduct when you heat either aluminium or iron to about 2,000, 2,500 degrees Celsius, and you get a trace element out of it then. It becomes out as a byproduct trace element, about 0.1%. This one's got 6.89. Outside the iron and the bigger element that's inside it, of the coat, it makes up about nearly half of all the rest that's in the coat. And this was only discovered and first made in about 1890 through heating, but not as 6.89%. I mean, some of the other stuff that's in this coat was first used by Volvo as a catalytic converter in 1976 for solar diode panels, for electronics, for resistance. And this is on the outer side of a ring, and it's a ring where I can put 2 fingers and a little finger inside it. It's massive. And the main component, the number 1 component, is not from this planet. And it's mixed in with all sorts of IUMs that were not discovered until the 19th century. And this was found in the grounds of Angkor Wat and is thousands upon thousands. We believe it's over 10, maybe 20,000 years old. But we didn't know about any of these elements until recently. And of course, the newest one that just came in, another ring from Lemuria. I know I'm saying Angkor Wat, but I'm looking at it at a different basis. I'm going back because all this stuff was made before 12,000 years, before the great cataclysm. The last ring that's just come in is containing titanium, and it comes from Indonesia, ancient. Not even Angkor Wat. All of our stuff normally comes from Angkor Wat or Australia. This one sits in the middle, but that's the edges and parts of Lemuria from way back. And that one, that titanium that's inside it, well, that's interesting. First used by us manufacturing in 1932 to make 14 karat gold, 21 karat gold, harder than 14 karat gold, by putting less than 0.1%, 1% inside it. That's what it is. It's 99% gold, right? 24 karat gold and 1% titanium. That was the first time we ever used it. But ring number 4 that's just come in, the 4th of the 5 we've got, it's got titanium in it. And of course, it also has a missing piece in it because it doesn't come up to 100%. Once again, we have that same repeating story in all 5 of these objects we're going to talk about. They have in them a metal that is not on the earthly periodic table. And what we find is when you put these 5 artifacts together, all metal, they span across 3 continents, and they span time scales, which means yes, aliens were here, and yes, they were here for the long term. They were here over a long period of time and became involved with humans genetically, metallurgically, and in every way possible. And therefore, when we come and talk about the fact they were involved in something, setting up something inside the rocks at Uluru, if you know they are far more advanced than us, if you know they've been with us for a long period of time, then this story becomes easier to assimilate and understand. So this article for us is absolute proof of the fact that alien beings have been here. In fact, our argument is we should get over if they've been here or whether they've been here and discuss why they came. We've done it, and that's what this article is about. That's what the presentation we're doing is about. And of course, it would be wrong. This is how we're supposed to do it. We mention the presentation after the article, not that flagrant sales pitch we did last time. All shame on you, Evan, for doing it to me. I can't even look at the camera. What was I on about again? Oh, that's right, the online conference.
Off and then I'm gonna.
That's right. You're going to do the ad at the finish, right? The online conference. So that primarily is half of what we're going to do. And then we're going to go further and talk more about, if we've got the time, an analysis we did on one ring, well, we put two psychics, blindfolded, basically, weren't they? They'd never met each other before, had they?
No.
And they never saw each other until after they both looked at this ring. So we tried to make this as scientific as possible. And I want to talk about the fact that they said 7 things, which I've listed, which were basically identical. And then asked the question, how is that possible if they never spoke to each other before and never briefed each other, and nor did they even get to read off each other's thoughts because they weren't locked into each other? We tried to do a scientific test to prove the existence of magic, and I believe we have to an extent. Wrote an article about it, but I'm going to put that into this particular presentation if we have the time. Then the rest of our presentation, the second part of, we're doing 2 things, our alien ancestry and what comes next. Okay, but now what comes next becomes equal. But we haven't finished our alien ancestry because we've been focusing on Australia, haven't we, Evan?
We have.
We've been a bit geocentric in that respect. So what we like to do is, if we have a topic, we like to do it in a full part. And the second part of this, we chose 3 people from the Cosmic Consciousness Conference, which was unique, to say the least. And all credit to the people who put it on, that actually saw it through and stayed with us. Most would have thrown us away because of the grief it caused a lot of people getting there. But it was definitely worth the effort, I can assure you. And out of respect to them and what those guys put on, Mick and Catherine, I wanted to choose, because the first one we did when we came back, we had original people talking about what actually happened. And their impact and how they see things evolve out of that. And then we had non-original people, Wirechan. But they were both women, weren't they, Evan?
Yep.
So what we never had so far, to sum up and conclude what we've done, is we have never had non-original males. They haven't been included, so we chose, didn't we? 3 non-original males. And we chose those 3, which we believe were the pick of the crop. I'm not saying they're the very best at everything, but the pick of the crop for what we needed in our narrative to come out of that. And honestly, it's quite funny. With Freddie Silver, and this is true, I swear to you, we saw his work, we watched him on TV, because he wasn't allowed to come to Australia because the naughty COVID thing had banned everyone from going everywhere. Oh shit, it still does, doesn't it? I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, things will get better. Oh God, I'm not going down that path. Okay, where was I? Oh, that's right, Freddie Silver. Anyway, we only got to see him, and I didn't even get to see all of him, unfortunately, but the part I saw, I thought, my God, that guy is saying exactly what we're saying in a slightly more humorous way than we are, but giving it a global perspective that fits in so well, it's like a glove. And now with our only dealings, except I said to Evan, look, if there's any way we can get him, contact him. Unfortunately, we did. Evan did contact me, not me, of course, I wouldn't know how to do that.
No.
And he agreed to talk. And then it was interesting, because then soon after, someone we have the greatest respect for said, said things about Freddie that weren't complimentary, and I thought, oh God, this happens all the time, doesn't it? Everyone's got shitty the things people say about us.
Oh, we're very loved by some.
Oh God, yeah. But anyway, so it was quite funny because, you know, it was saying that, and then what I'm leading up to is this. Then another gentleman, an original elder I have the highest respect for, who's been on our show before and will be back again, Alan Parsons, rang me up said, I want to talk to you about this person I've been reading about that you have to have on. The sooner the better. This guy's stuff is brilliant. He's got it on pat. He's coming from the original viewpoint. You've got to have him on. I said, mate, who is it? Who is it? And he told me it was Freddie Silver. So here's how that goes. One of the people we've got on, one person thinks he's absolutely stunning. Another thinks differently. The same with Craig Cole, isn't it, Evan? I got the same story there. One person said, oh, this guy's no good. Don't worry about him. And the person who said he's wrong is me, because I went and saw him and I spoke to him. Well, what I'm getting at is that it's funny, in these days of change, remember this, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things we've got to learn to do is to really stop judging people. Let them judge themselves. What I'm going to do with both anyone that comes on is I judge them according to how I know them. I don't know Freddie, but I've got to tell you, I've got an elder demanding and he comes on, so I have no choice. He's coming on, and to be honest, I heard what he said, and it's a perfect fit for the second part of our story, which is our part of the story, which is our alien ancestry and the lies that have been created around our history. Freddie can pick that up perfectly. He doesn't need any direction. And then the other two speakers, Craig and Nick. Then we go in, and we're going to be doing this more and more. We're going to go into stuff that's sometimes life stuff, psychology, and all sorts of weird stuff, even politics and alternatives to the chemo companies and pharmaceuticals when they've gone, when we have to grow our medicines from the ground, the bush tucker we need. Lionel's done that before, and we're going to be doing all sorts of stuff to go with what comes next. But first up, we've got two people talking about the path, the road, the river that is formed, that women will find easy to find and locate and feel comfortable with. Men will have a problem. All men will, because they have a hormone called testosterone, and it doesn't have a brain cell in it. And we've got to deal with that. It's just called angry, basically.
It is, yeah.
It's just called angry. That's all it's there for. It just says, oh, something's not right, I'll get angry. Okay, and then deal with it the way I think I should. So we've got that to deal with, and it's really interesting. I've got one guy, Craig, who's a life coach, who's talking about the theory, the ways, the approaches, the intricacies of this fast-flowing river, which is what the river, Hopi call it, or the path, the Himalayan's called. And then you've got another guy who's going to do it from a personal point of view, isn't he?
Yeah.
Just anecdotally. How he was off the river, now he's in there. And the reason we're doing this is because I'm not trying to frighten the women away and say, listen, you'll find this is boring. You won't. You'll find it very feminine, spoken by people that are males, and what they've got to understand is that part of our equation has been a little bit misplaced and lost for about 6,000 years and needs to come back very quickly because the time's running out. So two parts to this presentation. We do the history, the lies, and our alien ancestry, which Evan and I and Freddie will cover. And then we do what comes next, with particularly influence to those men that think that bashing someone in their head is a sign of being anything other than a buffhead. And quite a few other things that go with that, which aren't quite as overt, but they're nearly the same. And also, most importantly, trying to realise that, as the Hopi said, we are the ones we're waiting for, and when you get in that river, the first thing you find out is you're on your own. But there's people around you. That's what this is all about.
So yeah, I've got links.
Evan, go and do the links now.
I'll do the links now.
Promo at the finish.
Yeah, so I've got links on the side to chapter 9, so that's the one Steve's been talking about. So yeah, grab a ticket. There's also a link to replay to chapter 8 in case you might have missed that one. That was a great conference, wasn't it?
Yes, it was a very good conference. Actually, the elders are still there, and a lot of people would be stunned by what they've got to say. I'm going to go and make some breakfast, mate. I'll let you finish this one up.
Yeah, and then there's also another link right down the bottom for subscriptions if you want to subscribe to these conferences month by month. Yeah, so that's $15.99 a month. That's in Australian. So, and then don't forget that this weekend there's the summit with all the different speakers. So that's going to be a really good one. So yeah, Forgery Unmasked. So definitely get a ticket to that one as well. yeah, you're all a little bit spoilt because we've got one this weekend, and then a couple of weeks time, chapter 9, and uh, yeah, if you subscribe, you'll also get to see all the chapters from before as well. So yeah, there's plenty of stuff there for everyone to see. So yeah, till next time.